20th century, hundreds of different kinds of animals have disappeared from the wild. This is the story of one of them. The Palestinian painted frog lived a long way east of the other members of its particular family of frogs. It had distinctive markings, not dissimilar to this East African tree frog. It lived in the marshes of Lake Hula on the Israeli-Syrian border. Once this was a swampy lake, an oasis for the frogs amidst the hot deserts that surround it. It was mainly active at night. During the heat of the day, it nestled in the wet sand, keeping just its head above the water. Its skin was marked with ochre and rusty patches across its back and a darker belly, but no one knows the extent to which individuals varied. Only 5 Palestinian painted frogs were ever recorded, the first as recently as 1940. It is clear, however, that they grew to about 9.5 centimeters and had adapted perfectly for the very particular needs of their harsh and restricted home. How they got there is a mystery. Probably they were descendants of a relic population isolated during some ancient climatic change. We can only assume that the Palestinian species behaved in a similar way to other painted frogs, breeding in both winter and spring, and laying between 300 and 1,000 eggs. The spawn hatch into tadpoles in 2 to 10 days, and they turn into frogs in less than 2 months. In 1948, the Jewish homeland was established in Israel. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, many Jews wanted to settle in the Promised Land and journeyed there from all over the world. As so many people flowed in, the tiny new country needed to find land for homes and agriculture. Much of the land was desert, and vast rivers were needed to water it and make it habitable. The settlers embarked on the massive task of irrigating the deserts, diverting the waters of the mighty River Jordan, and building dams, pipelines, and canals. The settlers succeeded in making the land fertile, but the water had to come from somewhere. As the crops grew in Israel, the shores of Lake Hula, fed by the waters of the Jordan, dried up. The Palestinian painted frog had to burrow deeper to bathe in the retreating water. The waters continued to flow out of the lake, and the desert sands started to rise. Within 20 years, where there had once been brackish pools, there was now nothing but dust. Water, Israel's most critical resource, was in short supply. Sometimes it was even imported in huge plastic bags from Turkey. The home of the Palestinian painted frog dried up, and they had nowhere to go. The last, a female, was caught by Mr. M. Costa, a herpetologist, in 1955. He kept her alive in a tank for 1 year, but unfortunately was never able to find her a mate. Now Lake Hula is a dry swamp, turning into dust for much of the year. The cost of irrigating the Promised Land was that the Palestinian painted frog should lose theirs.